In today's video, we're asking, can you build an office building out of landfill waste? Can you make it look good enough for a world-class part of central London? And is it time we brought Gothic architecture to offices? If you've stood at Oxford Circus and you look west down the street, you'll have seen this building, 33 Cavendish Square. Built in 1962, it's a classic example of post-war modernism. But it's reaching the end of its practical life and architecturally doesn't really fit the vernacular of the surrounding area very well. So developers want to refurbish it and produce something more fitting for this world-class location. And here's what developers want to see on the site instead. So it's going to be this 7-storey building fronting onto Oxford Street with a facade that looks a lot grander and more fitting for this part of the street. It looks like it belongs on Oxford Street a lot more than the current building does and has a lot more architectural presence. So you've got those lovely arched tripartite windows, these curved corners which wrap all the way around the building and almost open up the side streets that come off Oxford Street. And the building really fills the plot. It completes the street line of grand buildings of about the same height all the way along Oxford Street. And from this angle, so this angle we're looking from Oxford Circus down towards Bond Street. The current building, it really abruptly ends the grandeur of Oxford Circus there, and then you get this faceless facade which doesn't really do much for the architectural language of the area, contrast to what's proposed on this site. And the roof line has been kind of extended down Oxford Street. The building really steps onto Oxford Street more unapologetically than the current building. The current building really feels quite shy, I think. It has this like 2-storey podium and then a 5-storey setback. It really feels like it doesn't actually want to be on Oxford Street. It looks like it doesn't really belong there. It looks like it looks like quite a shy building, almost kind of stepping back from the street. Whereas the proposal steps onto the street, it presents this 7-storey facade. It uses this material which echoes the architectural language of the buildings at Oxford Circus. So again, it continues the architectural language. These lovely arched windows which break up the massing, break up the facade a bit, and just add a little bit more visual interest for your eyes to be entertained by. The materials are much more in keeping with the surrounding area. The buildings on Oxford Circus and along Regent Street nearby are all adorned with these lovely white facades which are quite synonymous with the area. And if we zoom in on this corner a little bit, you can see that lovely detailing in the columns, this subtly recessed roof line. You get these little glimpses into that impressive office ceiling inside, which we'll get onto in a second. And of course those roof terraces which sort of nicely top off the building, and you've got this lovely vegetation that almost acts like a crown for the building. And there's this 2-storey retail frontage along the ground floor which again continues the architectural language of Oxford Street. A lot of those retail frontages along the street present a very grand frontage to the street. So this building is really just going to continue that. They've not tried to create anything crazy or out of place here. This is very much a building that is sort of its context. They've looked at the surrounding buildings along Oxford Street, they've looked at the surrounding buildings in this area, and they've designed a building that is modern but fits that architectural language very nicely. So the original building, as I mentioned, was built in the 1960s. It's 21 stories at its tallest. It used to house BHS before they went bust, and I think the UAL College of Fashion is here now. Now I mentioned that this building was going to be built out of landfill waste, so this isn't a redevelopment. They're not going to demolish the current building and build a new one in its place. It's actually a refurb and an extension of the current 1960s building that is on the site. And it'll use recovered granite and Portland stone from the existing building in the new building. So 95% of demolition waste materials will be diverted from landfill for reuse and recycling. So you can see from this plan here that they are planning to partially demolish parts of the building. Most of the sort of the ground floor bits, that 5-storey block fronting Oxford Street, will be demolished, but 95% of the materials that they get rid of from the site will be utilised in the redevelopment. But although that 21-storey tower at the back will be staying, they're also going to be improving the facade of that and making sure that it looks more modern and fits in with its surroundings a bit better. So I've dug out this facade plan. On the left there, that is the existing facade. Very, very typical 60s building. I think every town in the UK has a building that has a facade that looks a bit like that. And then on the right there, that is what they're proposing instead. So we're going from this quite stark, featureless, modernist facade that's there at the moment to one with more detail, subtle recesses and more decorative features, which again will help it to sort of fit in with the grandeur of this area a bit more and give the building a bit more of a facelift without having to demolish it and get rid of it and waste all of those materials. The offices inside the new building are going to have these really cool ceilings, and this picture shows those off really well. So this isn't just an architectural move. This isn't just an architect being like, oh, this would be a cool idea to create these, like, I don't know, Spider-Man looking ceilings. But they're not just artistic. So the shape, this sort of vaulted shape in the ceilings actually helps to carry the load of the floor plate a bit better. So instead, most of the reinforcement is only needed around the tops of the columns there, while the edge beams hold everything together and act sort of like cable ties, apparently. So that makes it more efficient, and it means that they can use less steel reinforcement in the construction of this building. So again, they're being much more efficient with materials, it'll be a much lighter weight building, and therefore better for the environment as well. So they're calling it Gothic Revival, so it's almost like bringing Gothic architecture to office buildings. Here's a picture showing the lobby space that they're planning on building, and again you see those incredible vaulted ceilings. They do look a little bit like a church. I personally feel it's a little bit of a reach to call it Gothic Revival. You can see these edge beams which come out from the columns, and they create this lovely arched roof which almost looks like a web across the whole ceiling. It's pretty unique. I've never seen anything like this before, but it's really cool to see them experimenting with new ways of construction, especially when it looks this cool. Got this huge double, maybe even triple height lobby here that's going to create a really impressive entrance space for this building. I wonder if the retail units in the building will also look like this. It'd be really cool to have like a shop that has like vaulted ceilings like this. As with all the best buildings, it's going to be highly mixed use. So there's going to be obviously office space and retail, which we've already discussed, but there's also going to be a cultural hub, a food hall in the basement because everywhere needs a food hall nowadays, co-working space, event space, and some sort of tourist attraction roof terrace thing that was mentioned. And there's also a pub that already exists on the ground floor of the current building, and that is going to be retained and enhanced as well. And this is a really cool cross section of the building which shows off that mixed use nature really well. So you've got the food hall on the basement there, and then 2 stories of retail above it. That office lobby, it is a double, well yeah actually it is, it might even be a triple height office lobby there, and then offices above. Now the architects are saying that as much as possible every single bit of roof space on this new building will be utilised. So obviously there's going to be those roof terraces that we mentioned. There's over 1,000 square metres of new green roof terrace that is going into these buildings, and then in the middle they are planning to put a load of solar panels, but the solar panels themselves are going to be set on these like biodiverse green roofs that they're doing. So there'll be loads of plants and grass and things like that with the solar panels on top. And while that might seem a bit weird and a bit pointless, why would you have a lawn on the roof of a building? It actually has multiple uses. Having like plants and grass and greenery on the roof of a building acts as insulation, so it means that the obviously the floors above require less heating, take up less energy, but it also gives local wildlife space to thrive as well. So you'll get probably birds creating a nest up there, you'll get butterflies going up there as well. Overall, the new development will apparently contribute a 3,248% net gain in biodiversity. And this is something that a lot of new developments have to do at the moment. The government are really hot on making sure that new developments don't take away from biodiversity, don't take away from the local environment, but actually give back to it. So I think buildings have to contribute some sort of net gain, but I think a 3,248% increase in biodiversity is probably a new record for me. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. And that's probably because I guess the current building is this massive concrete structure. There's probably not solar panels on there. I'm guessing there's not a green roof on the top or anything like that. Let me just check actually. Let me see. Can you see it on Google Earth? Yeah, I mean, there's no green roofs on that building. There's just a load of like air conditioning units and like piping and just a grey roof. So the new building, obviously with all of this greenery and habitat for local wildlife, that is what has contributed this massive net gain in biodiversity. And that all has a dual use. It's well documented now that having a space to be among nature, having a space to be outside makes office workers more productive. And it's quite significant as well. I think it's about 20% increase in productivity when office workers are among green space versus when they have no green space to go to during the day. So if you're a company that is currently based in a typical dull office block and you move into this office block, in theory that means that your workers are going to see an increase in their productivity. So that is obviously a massive deal for a lot of companies. It's not just a load of trees, it's not just a load of greenery just to make it look nice. It's a lot more than that. It runs a lot deeper than that. And then obviously the other dual use is that those green roofs are going to insulate the building more, meaning that the building isn't going to be as expensive to heat in the winter as well. And then the Margaret Street facade, so this is on the other side of the block. It's one of the streets that comes off Oxford Street. This is the architectural language. That there, the Phoenix, that's the existing pub. And I was looking at this render and I was like, it doesn't look like a pub though. Wait, let me just see, what does the current pub look like? Because I might, yeah, like the current pub, I guess the current pub doesn't really look like a pub either, if you look at it, but at least it has that like wood paneling going on. You can very much see that that is at least trying to look like a pub, whereas the render here, that looks like a H&M. It doesn't look like a pub. I think if they want to make it look like a pub, they should probably do like, yeah, paneling or something, even if it would look out of place with the rest of the building, yeah, they should just make it look like a pub a bit better, because that looks like it looks more like a bar. But yeah, if that is going to be a pub, I think they should make it look a bit more like a pub. And so let's do a little before and after. This is the view from Margaret Street at the moment. So if you're on Regent Street and you're looking down Margaret Street, then this is what the view looks like at the moment, and this is what the proposed view looks like. So you still have that huge modernist tower going on, but I think the colour of that facade not only fits with the colours of the buildings on Regent Street in the foreground here, so it all reads as quite a unified architecture, but I also think it enhances the facades of those red brick buildings as well. You might disagree, that's fine, but I think it provides a nice kind of contrast and almost makes those red buildings pop a little bit more. Now, excitingly, this exact part of Oxford Street is due to be pedestrianised this year, later this year. I think it's due to be pedestrianised in like September or something. The bit from Oxford Circus down to Bond Street is going to be totally pedestrianised. So obviously they've tried to think about that a little bit as well, because when this refurb is finished, Oxford Street will be completely pedestrianised. And that's been considered in these plans. So it's not part of this proposal, but the architects have kind of put forward this like high level plan to pedestrianise the two streets to the side of the development as well. So that's Hollis Street and the street to the side, John Prince's Street as well, to create a pedestrian environment that surrounds the whole building. So the building almost becomes an island in the middle of this like pedestrianised area. And there's also a sort of a loose vision to create a pedestrian corridor running from Hanover Square across the pedestrianised Oxford Street all the way up to Cavendish Square. So it's this idea that you'll have this high quality green pedestrian environment between these two key West End green spaces. I'm really interested to see the plans for Oxford Street pedestrianisation. Obviously I've done a whole video on this, but yeah, I'm hoping that sort of later this year we'll start to see some plans of what they're going to do with the pedestrianised street. I'm hoping for sort of like dense greenery and like, you know, an urban forest and things like that, but I don't know what the limitations are, because obviously there's loads of retail along the street that still needs to get serviced during the night, so there's still going to have to be like traffic on the street during the night. So I don't know quite how ambitious they're going to be able to be, but maybe like this block here could be like a dense forest with, I don't know, like a water feature or something. That'd be really cool. Let me know actually if you want me to do a video putting forward some of my ideas for pedestrianisation of Oxford Street. I say like my ideas as if I know what I'm talking about. I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. But I really want to do more videos sort of like exploring how I would improve different parts of the city. Like I have a few ideas, like walking around being like, oh, this would be nice if it was like this, or this would be nice if it was like this. And all of them are like pie in the sky, because I don't really know what I'm talking about. I just know what looks nice in other places and how London might be enhanced with those kind of ideas. Anyway, whatever, I'm getting off track, let me know what you think. I love the idea of creating like a green link between Cavendish Square and Hanover Square, and I really think the pedestrianisation of Oxford Street is going to like really enhance this whole area, because it really feels like somewhere that you just like speed through at the moment, whereas I think in future it really could feel like somewhere that you maybe want to spend a little bit more time in, which I'm excited about. And so the redevelopment got planning approval in December 2025. For some reason, they're only going to start construction in 2029. I don't know why it's going to take so long. I mean, I guess we're in 2026 now. I don't know. I kind of, in my head, 2029 is still like 10 years in the future. But of course, we're in 2026 now, because COVID was like 5 minutes ago, but it was actually like 5 years ago. So yeah, okay, 2029. I guess that's only 3 years away, and completion will be in 2033. The developers are saying the building has the capacity to create an additional 4,000 jobs in the area, which is an uplift of 1,700 jobs when compared to the current building. So again, it is going to be a bigger building. It is going to have more floor space, so therefore it's going to, I guess, employ more people. They're expecting it's going to contribute an extra £1 billion to the local economy every single year. So yeah, there you go. I think that was a good video, wasn't it? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I love reading all your comments about stuff like this, because you always notice things that I haven't noticed. So if you've noticed anything that I haven't mentioned, please do pop it below. As I said, I love reading your comments. They always make me laugh, and I always learn something as well. I feel like I've learned so much over the last 2 years of having this channel about a topic that I thought I knew quite a bit about. But I'm literally always learning new things about this sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading your comments below. Let me know if you like the building. Let me know if you prefer the current building. I like it. I mean, it's yeah, I would, as I said, I think it's a bit of a reach to call it Gothic Revival, but yeah, whatever. I mean, it's a nice looking building. They've integrated that greenery really well. I love the fact that they've utilised every single bit of the roof space there. I love the arches. I love the sort of the curved corners there. I think it's a building that is going to make this part of Oxford Street look a lot nicer, And of course, when it finishes in 2033, Oxford Street will also be pedestrianised. So it's going to sit in a much nicer environment than it currently does. Yeah, I'm excited to see it come to fruition. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.